So happy to be here with two colleagues that I enjoy a special relationship with when it comes to the Development Bank for Resilient Prosperity. And we have spoken a lot about that and how that is going to be a key movement with how we move the Pacific region forward. And I want to start out by giving each of our panelists an opportunity to speak a little about where we are now in the history of the world when it comes to financing, the history of regions like the Pacific and the Caribbean that are vulnerable and they are seeing their preferential treatment when it comes to ODA being erased. So I want to start with Ambassador Tony, who I know is a very passionate advocate of this topic. Ambassador.
Thank you very much, Ashaki, for convening our panel this afternoon. What I can say is that the situation of the world, especially in the Pacific Island countries, and I'm sure it's the same with the Caribbean region as well as the ACE region, the Indian Ocean region, is the difficulty of accessing finance for development from the international banks, the World Bank and the IFIs. So that gives us the effort to try and create and advocate for another index, which I did mention in the previous panel. It's this MVI, Multidimensional Vulnerability Index. The good thing that as we recall this, in case some are not aware of it, that the United Nations endorsed that MVI in a resolution that was endorsed by the member states. I think it was in August last year. And so it's out of the hands of the UN. It was well discussed and negotiated. I have to be very thankful to the government of Vanuatu, the ambassador of Vanuatu, I think is here. I just saw him a little while ago. I think the origin of that was the law students in Vanuatu that sort of initiated this dialogue. It went to the level of government of Vanuatu and then on to the UN. So it went through a very rigorous process, but the good thing is that it has gone to the top of the multilateral platform of the UN. It was endorsed. Now it's in the hands of the IFIs and the MDBs. So we're hoping that that will be part of their plan for reform, something that we all aspire to, whether it's the Security Council or the UN, or reform is something that can lead for better structure of things. So with that, maybe I can stop there, but that leads to the MDB that we've been talking about. Because of the difficulty of trying to access finance for development or making a loan, a concessional loan, because of the critical basing of their assessment on the GDP GNI, which is something that really rules out quite a number of developing countries because they don't pass the test. Hence the creation of the movement for the creation of the MDB, of the DBRP, Development Bank for Resilient Prosperity. To me personally, I find it very attractive. It does change the way you value things, because the value system is that you value your natural assets, something that we all have in our islands, but we don't know how to develop them, like in the developed world. So you're facing the big difference between the global north and the global south. We have the ocean, we are surrounded by big oceans, of course, as alluded to by the speaker of Tonga. We are 2050 Pacific strategy based on oceans. So the oceans are a big asset for us, and we have other natural resources. So the key thing that I find of great value with the discussion with the DBRP is the base of how you value things. You value your natural assets. So we have the natural assets, but you are putting a value on them so that you bring that in, make that as part of your accessibility to the DBRP and the finance. Maybe I can stop there for now and then add later on. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you very much, Ambassador. And I want to go right over to Ratu, who I know has spent a lot of time, yes, working within the Pacific Island Forum, which is one of the stronger regional cooperation groupings we see within SIDS, but also you've spent a lot of time on climate finance. And I think that links quite nicely with what Ambassador mentioned in terms of this new era that we're seeing where, yes, we're facing climate challenges, but also the financing is not coming fast enough. Can you speak a bit of what you have seen from your experience? What are the challenges? What's that ecosystem looking like for the Pacific?
Thank you, Akash, for this opportunity. Thank you, the organizers as well. Just for context, the Pacific Island Forum is an intergovernmental organization within the Pacific, made up of 18 member states and territories, including our bigger brothers and sisters from Australia and New Zealand, where as a collective, we can have a Pacific voice in international forums and raising priorities of the Blue Pacific. So on the issue of climate financing, this has been something that, of course, is discussed heavily throughout the years, and I think will be continued to be discussed until we get some meaningful action. Accessing climate financing is always an issue for us in the Pacific. We would say that it is like writing a PhD thesis to put up a proposal for a GCF large-scale project. And we have to get funding just for that, to put in a proposal. And then there's the issue of getting an accredited entity to have that money be channeled into the Pacific. So there's just hurdles over hurdles for us to then reach a point of getting funding to the grassroots level communities in building their resilience. And this is something that our leaders in the regional level had discussed. We had thought of finding another solution in terms of what we can do to find something that is retrofitted to the Pacific. And some of you may know the Pacific Resilience Facility, which has been recently established by the Pacific leaders for the Pacific. It will be a grant-based system, and it will be replenished through pledges from developed partners, and of course through philanthropic organizations as well. And the aim is to reach 350 million. And the modality that they are looking at is for the funds in this Pacific Island Resilience Facility to be something as a bond, where it will be invested and the proceeds will be put in back and be used by communities. Taking away that long application process, taking away the need of an accredited entity, having communities directly access it. So this fund is in its inception phase. Of course, there'll be need to be a treaty with the member countries of the Pacific Islands, which will be worked on this year, and of course, how we can best implement this. And the good thing is there's a lot of bad examples and lessons that we can learn from other international financing institutions that we've had to climb mountains just to have a peek at. So we're optimistic that this Pacific Resilience Facility, even though it is quite small, but we envision it to grow into something quite bigger and something much more large scale, and something that could bring practical solutions to the Pacific.
Thank you so much, Ratu. And I want to go over to Ambassador, because it's a discussion that we have had quite a number of times. These two new financing facilities targeting small island developing states, but in this case targeting the Pacific region, the PRF and the DBRP. And I just wanted to get your views on you seeing that as the solution, or one of the major solutions to the potential development financing crisis that countries like ours face. So I would love to hear from you, Ambassador. How do you see the PRF and the DBRP working together to resolve any gaps that we will face with development financing?
Thank you, Ashaki. I think it's very important to highlight the importance of complementarity. Mm-hmm. You know, it's we don't have to always invent the start from first page, reinventing things. But we can, if we have some good steps, we can align ourselves with other good steps. And with the idea behind the DBRB is that it's not to replace the IFIs and the MDBs, but rather to complement the MDBs. So, as my colleague Ratu Filimone has said, there has been a lot of work in the PRF, Pacific Resilience Facility. I think it's getting close to being a treaty to be ratified, maybe I think before COP30. I think the news that I've got is that the finance ministers, economic ministers of the Pacific Island Forum recently, I think in Nuku'alofa, maybe this month, a few weeks ago, endorsed this PRF agreement, but it's going to be reported to the leaders in their meeting in September in Honiara, Solomon Islands. So with the ratification of that as a treaty of the PRF, we are in a strong position to show to the world the ambition that we're in, and I think, as alluded to by Ratu Filimone, the current balance, I think we have about 150 million already. So we're very thankful to partners who have contributed or pledged to this fund. We have about 350 million remaining to attain the target of 500 million by the near future. So we're aiming to achieve that, and the complementarity of the two funds is very important to us. And the other good thing is that with the DBRP, we're aiming to tailor-made the accessibility of the funds to the special needs of SIDS. So I think it's very important to highlight that. We have a special need. We're in a category that needs that attention and space for finance, for development. So with the DBRP, I think it does meet that in many, many ways.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. And I want to turn back over to Ratu. So again, at COP29, there were lots of discussions. We know that tempers flared a little because the developing countries felt that we were not as close to the target that we wanted to be when it comes to commitments from our developed country partners, or even some of our larger developing country partners. And I want you to speak a little on perhaps your own experience and insight. What are some of the things that we need to do as a region, the Pacific specifically, whether it's the need for more instruments, more financing instruments so that we can meet our climate finance needs, whether it is the need for enlarging the pot of funds that are available to countries like ours. So you mentioned the 500 million, and we all know that, by the time we do that assessment, we all know we have $1 trillion problem that we're trying to solve with $1 million check. So from your own experience, what are some of the things that we can continue to do to close that financing gap that we see?
Thank you, Kachi. Well, I see this issue that we face with the climate catastrophe, climate financing. It's a losing race where we are continuously chasing, and it's a systematic issue as well, where we are relying a lot on existing financial institutions, the financial architecture of the predominantly big financing institutions that we rely on, the ADBs, the World Bank. And when they bring in their development, there is also various other impacts of that. So I think it is the right time now for small and developing states, large ocean states, to have their own development institution or resilience facility that we can rely on, and that other developed countries can look to in terms of finding something that is that will assist us in improving our reality.
Thank you so much. And yesterday, the managing director of the IMF indicated that we can no longer use a cookie-cutter approach. And I think Ratu was hitting home at that we need to have our own homegrown solutions to solve our own problems. And we have a few minutes remaining, and I want to ask Ambassador Tony in his as he wraps up. Partnerships. You speak a lot about partnerships, and in the room here we have member countries, we have private sector, we have foundations and philanthropies, we have the private sector. When it comes to the building of our regions, where do you see the partnerships, and especially the non-traditional partners, those that we haven't focused as heavily on them as we needed to? So the foundations, the philanthropies, bringing the private sector to the table as an equal partner. You sit right at the heart of it all with the multilateral system. Where do you see partnerships with helping us?
Thank you, Ashaki. I think you brought up a point that we cannot stress enough, partnership. I did mention earlier in the panel discussion this morning about Dr. Jean Leon, a very important person in the dialogue regarding the DBRP. But of course, he doesn't stand alone. Of course, you're helping him in your effort. But of course, the Public Foundation, FOSD, is another, and Matt Trenchard, of course, is also part of that group. So it is very important that we underline that, the partnership. And of course, the linkage to the PRF is also very important. We may be starting in a humble way with the $500 million, in terms of capitalizing this fund. But we see that as diminishing over time with the frequency of cyclones and earthquakes and trying to address natural disasters. You're going to use that fund from the PRF to address the special needs urgently of the island states. Hence the requirement to replenish the fund over time. And we see the complementarity of the PRF and the DBRP, whereby the DBRP can finance, can contribute to replenishing that fund, of course, with a special arrangement and so forth. So again, you see the complementarity of the two banks. You see the value of partnerships. So I cannot stress this enough. Thank you.
And I think, as the previous speaker said, we can't go at it alone. We have to go at it together. And Ratu, to close, I like to ask this question. If we had to look at the future state, some of us in the room spoke about 2045, 2050. What would be your dream for the Pacific?
The dream is to be resilient in a way that you aren't reliant. That the assistance that comes in builds a community where they can build their resilience from the inside, and changing the systems that haven't been very progressive in how things are today. So the future for me is communities being able to build their own resilience, and assistance and development that comes in complements and gives them an environment to move at and become better at their own pace.
Thank you so much. So I think if there were just a few words that stood out to us: 1, partnerships; 2, complementarity; 3, the need for targeted financing. Oh, that's 2. So we've gone over. But the importance of bringing all players to the table so that we can have our homegrown solutions with the right partners at the table. And with that, I want to thank our panelists, our very good colleagues and champions in the work that we're doing at the Island Resilience Summit with the Development Bank for Resilient Prosperity, as well as the Public Foundation. Ambassador, you will have the last word.
Ashaki, forgive me, I just want to add something. Colleagues and distinguished guests, let me just, I think I did mention this before, but our Prime Minister, who is also the Finance Minister, is currently in DC. And at 3 o'clock, he's scheduled to meet with Dr. Jean Leon, that I mentioned before, so that Dr. Jean Leon will brief the Prime Minister, who happens to be the current chair of the Pacific Island Forum. So we see that as a very important news for us, but also for our gathering, because Tonga is currently the chair, and it does connect to the PRF that we mentioned. And of course, they're doing that meeting in the margins of the IMF World Bank Springs meeting in DC, and the Prime Minister will be coming to New York next week to meet up with the Secretary General. So it'll be an opportunity to advocate for the PRF.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. And very happy to have champions in key places for the development agenda of all SIDS. So thank you so much. Matt, over to you.